Hello and welcome to Read Red. Today I have a slightly different framed video. As you can no doubt tell, I'm not sitting at my desk, but I'm standing up because this is the third of 3 end of the year videos. So the first one was one sentence on every book that I read this year. The second one was my 2023 book awards, and this last video is going to be my 2023 bookshelf tour. And the reason I'm standing is just to make editing and moving around a little bit easier. What I'm going to do actually is I'm going to start with my Christmas/Boxing Day book haul, and the reason for that is that in terms of the books that I have, if you've sort of been following the channel, especially since the start of 2023, then you'll pretty much have a good idea of all of the books that I have in my bookshelf, and just these extra dozen or so are going to be the only extra ones that you'll want to know in order to have an update as to what books I have. But if you're new around here, then I will start with these, and then I'm just going to go through my bookshelves in each section. There's about 6, technically 7, but I'll get to that in a moment. Yeah, I'll just go through them one by one. But for now, book haul, and these are the books that my family got for me. I would prefer not to, by Herman Melville. Similar to Cervantes, I feel like Melville has the one seminal work of Moby Dick, and so everything else just sort of revolves around that, and all discussion of him seems to be around that. But I knew that I wanted to read Bartleby the Scrivener, and so I got this collection, which I'm very happy for. Then also, as recommended by the inimicable Leaf by Leaf, Multiple Joyce, 100 short essays on James Joyce's cultural legacy. And just skimming through this, I'm already know that this is going to be a great read. I've got the collected stories of Vladimir Nabokov, and I was really like umming and ahhing about whether or not I wanted to buy Nabokov's Dozen, especially while I was traveling, because it was a small book, but I didn't really know if it was worth to only get a couple of his books, so I was really happy to see that this collection has almost 70 of his stories, and so yeah, it'll be nice to dip back into the world of Nabokov. I don't know how keen I am to get into like another novel of his anytime soon, but I definitely want to reread the ones that I've already read. But yeah, so that's why short stories I think will be a great sort of next step. I got the Epic of Gilgamesh, which, all I know about this is that it's one of the oldest stories that's ever been written, so of course I kind of want to get hip to that. And then also, from what I've heard about this, and from what I've tried to, of course, deliberately avoid in order to avoid spoilers, I don't know if I'm just somewhat hyped for this book or if I'm immensely hyped for this book, but Lawrence Stern's The Life and Opinions of Tristram Shandy Gentleman. I just flipping through this, and from what I've heard about it, I know it's going to be a lot of fun, but this might turn out to be one of those sort of surprisingly good reads of 2024 if I get around to it. Poems of Li Po and Tu Fu. I really like Chinese poetry, and especially like getting hip to the Japanese haiku as well. I made a video earlier in the year about that. Yeah, I like that this has basically a 100-page essay at the start about these two poets, and then it jumps into poems and an analysis of their poems. Continuing the James Joyce love, I got Patrick Hastings's Guide to Ulysses, which will be very fun because I actually have Ulysses again sitting on my bench or my table, which that is one of the sections, so I will kind of go over that a little bit later. But I also really like that all of this stuff is essentially online for free, but this is just in a book form, so it'll be fun to flick through and to just support modern scholars and the like. So thank you to my family for getting this for me. Leaves of Grass by Walt Whitman. I love Walt Whitman so much. Song of Myself was my favorite poem that I read in 2023, and so just going through and having essentially the complete Leaves of Grass, I believe, in this collection is so, I'm so happy about this, and it is a really beautiful edition. So thank you to my brother for getting this for me. Going to Paris this year and seeing the Rodin Museum was a really kind of, I would say that it was actually a kind of immense intellectual experience for me, and so I was quite happy to see that my sister had gotten me the kind of Taschen Rodin, which is basically just nice to look at pictures. Get a lot of John the Baptist preaching over here, and what else have we got? We've got some a Crouching Woman and the Fallen Caryatid. Pretty sick. I love Rodin, so yeah, I'll be just sort of perusing through that. And then also, this is one of those books that not only has my brother got this book for me, but not only has he mentioned it, but also I've seen some comment sections mentioning it, but I've not quite pulled the trigger on purchasing it myself. So I was really happy to see this under the Christmas tree. Is House of Leaves of Grass by Mark Z. Danielewski. And so, you know, considering I'm into like the postmodern and the metafictional stuff, it's kind of just just obvious that I have to kind of get around to reading this book. But yeah. So those were all the books that I was given as a gift. And then also for the Boxing Day sale, which today is Boxing Day in real time, maybe not in scheduled or uploaded time. I don't even know if this video is going to come out within 2023. But anyway, I went and also bought, with Boxing Day sale, a couple of books for myself. So first up, I've got the complete short prose of Samuel Beckett. So there is no excuse for why 2024 should not be the year of Beckett. I've got Eros the Bittersweet by Anne Carson, which I'm keen for. I got a new version of The Saltweed Factor by John Barth, another Dalkey Archive, and then a third Dalkey Archive. I got At Swim Two Birds by Flann O'Brien. And so yeah, I mean 20% off every book in store. Couldn't say no. So I went into Kinokuniya and grabbed some great books. And so those are all the new books that I got for the holiday season. If you've been following the channel, you'll probably have a decent idea of what I have in my bookshelf. But otherwise, for the rest of you who are new, we're going to start with talking about each section. So my books are not organized in any particular way except in extreme macros, so just like themes. And then in terms of the way they're laid out, they're kind of just laid out aesthetically or in color. But I'm going to start with this section here, and I will cut and sort of move the camera so that it's lining up and easier to see. But this section is basically big books, so we'll go into that one. Let's get this Behringer Neutron out of the way. Okay, cool. So I'm not going to spend too long looking at these books because, again, a lot of these are the same from last year. And so I'm just going to kind of vaguely point out some like big highlights or new ones that I got. I mean, the highlight is probably the Codex Seraphinianus, which I got from my brother as a Christmas present last year. And it's just, an amazing art book that I like to dig through and read every now and then. Everything else, maybe the Centenary Ulysses. I can't remember if I had that last year for my last year video, but in terms of books that I know I didn't have last year, it was definitely, I didn't have this Melville biography, which again, I've already ranted about this. That's not a biography on Herman Melville. That's a biography on a Herman Melville biography. I got Gödel Shabak. I got Maurice Blanchard's The Sirens' Song, Campbell's Mythic Worlds, Modern Words, and Umberto Eco's On Ugliness. These are all new books or new books from my last video. And so, yeah, just kind of adding up. This is a section where basically, even though we've got some kind of non-fiction and some fiction, and so like the books could be moved around to be in a better home, pretty much because a general theme, in order to fit as many books as I have in this small place, I need to go for vertical stacks. And so because these books are of bigger size, then they just need to kind of have their own section where they can just be their own chaotic element. And so, yeah, that's sort of what these books are for. In terms of, I can't really say I've read any of these books cover to cover, but parts of them I've read some of, and other parts I've read none of. We're going to move over to the other, this is non-fiction, and this one is going to have a lot of the same stuff as last year, but I'll point out any of the new ones. Okay, and so this non-fiction section, a lot of the stuff again is the same as last year. I find that I read mostly fiction and mostly literary fiction, so it is a bit hard to see, most of these are going to be the same as last year, but some new ones. I believe most of this stack is new, especially Orientalism, Changing My Mind, Histories, and Chronicles of a Liquid Society. I think Camera Lucida and How to Read Literature Like a Professor, and maybe also Mythologies are new. And as you can tell, behind each of these stacks, I have more stacks of books, and that's going to come in sort of, you're going to see that in full form later on when I go down to my unread fiction books. But back here, don't know how well you'll be able to see with the lighting, but we've got just some philosophy, and the highlights I would say are Hegel, Wittgenstein, lots of the Greeks, and a couple of Kant. And I've got a nice everyman's collection of Montaigne up here, which is cool. Behind this stack here, if I just move it over actually, rather than having to take it off, behind this stack here is kind of religion as well as some psychology, but yeah, like maybe the highlights there, something that I still want to read but I haven't, are those Buddhist scriptures that are there, and also there's some extracts from the 1001 Nights which are there. But yeah, I'm not too kind of hyped about this section. Like, I like it, of course, but I like all my books, but yeah, I'm just much more into reading either literature or essays on literature. Oh gosh, this ain't working. All right, I'll fix that later. And then over at the far end, I've got really just miscellaneous books that I can't quite justify getting rid of, and but you know, maybe one day I'd like to do some research and just be like, oh, let's learn a little bit about science or infinity, or let's kind of learn some more German, or learn about the origin of species. So yeah, this is the non-fiction section. It's probably the least frequented section, which is why I have a lot of sort of just nice little like a candle and a Nixie tube clock there. So yeah. But we'll dig in now to the unread fiction section. Okay, so now we're taking a look at the first layer, or the first tier of my unread fiction books. Again, these are not organized in any particular way except aesthetically. You've got, you know, all the red vintage over there. The Arcturus kind of, you know, they have a similar theme at least, but just like colored, and then also mostly black covered books. In terms of new ones, Zadie Smith's On Beauty is definitely new. I got that only recently. George Eliot's Silas Marner, Hopscotch by Julio Cortázar, some Dumas here, and also some Dickens. These are all new. I also know that Boccaccio's The Decameron is new, and Vollmann's Riding Toward Everywhere is new, and the Cantos of Ezra Pound I didn't have last year. I think these Penguins are all new, and also, as you can see, I've got a kind of used version of the Sotweed Factor, so this is going to make its way somewhere else out of the way so that I can replace it with my new Dalkey Archive version. The Wind in the Willows in a nice hardcover. But then everything else, except maybe Paradise, these are all usual suspects. So if you want to see more about them, of course, at any point, just like pause if you want to read more closely the titles of the books. But I'll show you that just behind. If I actually remove some of these books, then you'll see that there's a whole nother layer or tier behind them. So I'll remove this column. Hopefully you can see just how many books I actually have on my bookshelf. There's another 4 columns behind. Any new ones? I know Kobo Abe's Secret Rendezvous, Mishima's Runaway Horses, Parable of the Sower by Butler, and also Bernhard as Extinction. That is new. And let me kind of move this to the side now to show the other column. Last Voyage of Somebody the Sailor, The Rings of Saturn. I gotta bring this one out because I keep hearing cool shit about that book, and so I know I kind of want to read it soon. Another Dickens, and I think that McCarthy trilogy is also new from last year's bookshelf tour. Move this one around. I think basically every single one of these books here I've had before, but one more layer. Let me move these and see what we've got. We've got Ducks Newbury Port, Beckett's Dream of Fair to Middling Women, Solenoid, Laura Warholic, and also Passenger, Prague Cemetery, and another Echo and Franzen. Those are pretty much, I think, all new, and there's no qualitative reason why they're behind and locked away in the abyss of my bookshelf. It's just that, again, those are big books, and so they would screw up the vertical columns if they were anywhere else. So unfortunately, even though they seem to be really great quality books, they're slightly quarantined to the back side. Okay, and so now I've moved over to the read section. My bookshelf is, of course, categorized in terms of read and read, and probably the greatest delight is at the end of this year just seeing how much this read section has ballooned and expanded. New books that I read this year: Kappa by Akutagawa, Mason and Dixon, and also some of Gaddis, Don Quixote here, and I won't need to go through sort of everything. If I at least already owned it last year, then it'll already be familiar. But in terms of new books, Siddhartha, Saturn Tango by Krishna Horkai, and yeah, just assume that everything that's here has been read. We've got some Gaddis and some marks and here and also over there. And then if I were to remove, same as before, I've got like different columns for different books, and you know, I'm sure that I like the books in some sense if they're still here, but I just haven't had a desire to. I don't really feel like displaying them at the front, and I've got a nice sort of color code going on over here. More books. Actually, speaking of nice color coding, get ready for this. Oh, look at that! Just a stack of red with a little bit of Otesamoshfe at the top, being having a blue spine, and then one more column back here of little bit of a rainbow, a bit of a hodgepodge jelly bean of different types of books. But yeah, everything here I've read. Again, feel free to pause and see if you want to know what books have been here, and you're welcome to ask me any questions about them. A lot of them I've made videos for. A lot of them I've at least just quickly mentioned, that's sort of what I wanted to do with my writing, or just saying one sentence on every book. And then a couple more, let me just move it a little bit. Yeah, we've also got that section over there. Again, it always, because of the vertical stacks, it always ends up that I have to have some sort of like compromise column over there, which has just all of these too large for their own good formatted books. So yeah, those are all of the books that I have read. Okay, and so I'm going to have to go handheld for this one here because my bed is kind of in the way and I'm not able to get the tripod there to see. But these books, this is my sort of bedhead drawer category of books, and these are just the books that I've kind of selected that I think I'm more inclined to want to just grab and read before anything else that I've got sitting on the bookshelf. And a lot of these are usual suspects, but I have slightly changed the category. So on the very leftmost column, that's poems, plays, and poems and plays, and then on the left, and the two middle columns are basically just light spined books and dark spined books. But the ones that are standing out that are new would definitely be Knosgaard, Lydia Davis, Fraser's The Golden Bow, Mo Yan's Red Sorghum, and also the Mahabharata, Lewis Carroll's Adventures in Wonderland, and yeah, a lot of the other stuff. So maybe on the right side over here, I've got Poems of the Masters, translated by Red Pine, and also Natsume Sosaki's I Am a Cat. Yeah, not too much about these books, except that I would say, if anything, you'd be more likely to expect videos on these books next year, because these are the ones I'm really going to want to be reading before anything else that I've got sort of set up. Okay, and so lucky last, this is just the books that I have on my desk. Over on the left, I've got some dictionaries, thesauruses, and language-related books. I've got poems and also, Ulysses and some short stories there in that column. And then over here, I've got some sort of essayistic books. These books, the thought process or the premise for them is just that they're books that I'm not necessarily holding myself to need to read top to bottom. They're just books that I want to be able to skim through at my own leisure, preferably skim through these books as opposed to being on social media or anything like that. But those are the books that I have on my bookshelf. This Bertrand Russell History of Western Philosophy is what I'm reading right now. And yeah, that's the microphone into which I'm talking, and that usually sits on top of my camera. But that's pretty much it in terms of a bookshelf tour, and thanks for watching. I suppose I'll see you in the next video. Let me know if you have any questions, or if you want to know if there's any particular books that I've read, or that you maybe want me to kind of bump up in the priority to read earlier than I normally would. But yeah, I'll see you all in the next video, and have a great new year.